depends a little bit on what the project is, but I guess most of my work, it's about me wandering around in weird places and discovering them.
Most of my job is about me wandering around in weird places and discovering them. Pretty cool job if you ask me. And whose job am I exactly talking about? Well, before I introduce you to her, let me introduce myself and a little bit of what I'm doing here today. It is currently 12 p.m. on a Thursday in London. There's beautiful sunlight outside, giving me adequate lighting for my video and all that jazz. And I am Sayyida Farwa Rizvi, and that person that you just heard describing their job, the coolest job in the world, that's Silvia Mercuriali. Silvia is from Milan, that's right, Italy, and she's a theatre practitioner. And she's been practicing here in the UK for the past 10 years. And she also, as if she couldn't get any more cool, she also agreed to a series of interviews conducted by yours truly. Now this series of interviews is what we have collated here in this video today, and this video in its entirety is part of my submission towards a module that I am completing for my Masters in Theatre Arts at Middlesex University, London. My project. Let's talk a little bit about that. So my project is an industry research project, but what does that mean? So as I said, I'm pursuing my Masters in Theatre Arts at Middlesex University, London, and one of our modules is about the industry itself. It's called Managing Practices, and what it seeks to do is make us familiar with the industry itself and also contribute towards the development of our resumes and CVs. Coming from India, where my only exposure to the theatre industry, even back home, had just been the university theatre circuit, it was a little daunting, realizing that this is somewhere where I'll have to, insert myself into the industry, into a working professional world. But I will say that one of the reasons I actually chose this course in the first place was that it had this module to familiarize ourselves with the industry in the UK. And as intimidating as that was, it was also super necessary for me and an important move to make. I identified a few practitioners and I got to meet all of them actually, everyone that I named in my proposal. But Silvia was the person that I actually got to really know and also do a placement with. Anyway, what happened was, once I identified these people and my supervisor Joe was able to put me in touch with Silvia, I got to actually meet her on the 13th of June 2022. That was our first meeting, and we got to talk about a lot of stuff. I could immediately tell that this is someone I could really learn a lot from, and it would just be a joy to watch her work and just observe her process. She was jet setting between England and Italy and Denmark and Portugal and all of these places, and basically at the time she didn't really have any projects in London except one.
This thing for Claude Ensemble, I went and I had some questions but there were a lot, and there were maybe because I didn't know yet what the piece was going to be. Uh, I think I didn't know yet what I was looking for. And slowly, during the process of interviewing, I understood what it was I was looking for. So, say the first half of the interviews have some question that I had prepared and tested with Claude. Of course, we agreed on the questions and all that.
3 months. These 3 months, she was working on 3 separate projects, but not in a linear fashion, because that's not a thing that happens for theater artists. But she was working on multiple projects simultaneously. She still kind of is. I've talked about the Claude Ensemble project, which in which it was an interesting thing because in parallel to me interviewing her for my project, she was interviewing a bunch of people for her project, where she, was able to talk to me about her process of developing these relationships and this, not just with her interviewees, but also about how she came to be involved with the project. So Claude Ensemble reached out to her in this particular case, and when they talked about it, they wanted her to make something, make a performance, make a show, basically, not really just a performance, but make a show about these amazing people who have worked so hard day and night and compromised in so much during the pandemic, and have continuously put themselves in the line of the metaphorical fire. And so, like, we talked about how she got to talking with the people at Claude Ensemble. She had worked with them before, so the networking there was, previous professional relationships, and the people that she then talked to for these interviews, that form this major chunk of the project itself. So was like the interviewing and all of that a newer process for you, or was it something that you've always done or always been interested in doing?
I think it was really with Swimming Home that I started like integrating interviews in the work.
Okay.
So instead of starting from, because I told you, that like I often like to start from some material that already exists, even though then of it you see very little. So in Macondo it's 100 Years of Solitude, Still Night is Invisible Cities, Pinocchio, but then actually, sorry, I was going to say it's the first time that I integrate in the sound the interviews, because already when I was doing Macondo, no Macondo, sorry, Wondermart, which was 2009, it's the second auto teatro piece that I made, that already started with interviewing. So I was in New York at that time, and I went and had a few interviews with this activist that kind of follows the development of this supermarket for communities, and she told me all about the sort of history of supermarkets in New York and all that. So it was quite interesting. I always find it really interesting to start from real things.
Right.
So whether the real thing it's an existing book or an existing person thought, I like to start from there. But then it was really Swimming Home that for the first time I integrated it into the actual audio. And then I find that it's just really lovely. Of course, it depends on on what the project is, but there is something about bringing it back to the people where it comes from in a way that I am really enjoying. So it's like, I guess, it is slightly a taking away me from the work,
Right.
to say this isn't just my thoughts, this isn't just my words, it isn't just my view, this is like a collective sort of voice.
Right. So Claude Ensemble arranged these meetings with the hospital, uh, whose employees she would be interviewing, and she was able to talk to them about it. She was able to, and the reason that I believe Claude Ensemble must have reached out to her was because she is very adept at taking people's stories and making the show about them. That's something that she focuses on very consciously as well, but that comes across very clearly in her work. So that is the sort of niche that she has, that she is an artist who creates her art about and for the people. And then she put that on hold for a while, and she moved on to her residency project in Italy, in Sardinia, and she was able to, so now there, basically, she also did interview people. She was the one who applied for this residency, and as she was quite clear about this, the reason she applied for she likes to apply for residencies is because what that allows for is you get funding, so there's that safety net, and also the environment that it can provide can be very stimulating, which it was for her clearly. She went to Sardinia with her producer Josie, who I later in the year was able to meet, a lovely person. So what I gathered from especially those two projects was how much her professional relationships matter to her, even though she is very self-dependent in the creation of her work and is the self-starter. There's no question about that. Even then, it is very important for her to develop this circle of trust, almost, of few but good professionals around her.
And we just started working together because we liked each other. I think that often, even before the work itself, it's a real kind of personal affinity with the people you work with, because if you get along, if you understand each other artistically in a way, then you are open, you got your ears open, your eyes open to any kind of new suggestions, and then things develop together. So I would say that that's mostly how I choose my collaborators. Now, when I have something specific, then I will look for the specific thing that I am looking for. So for Swimming Home, for example, I needed somebody who could build the app for the show. And Michele Panegrossi, who ended up designing the app for me, had worked with me on Macondo as sound engineer. And again, I just really found that working with him was very easy. He was extremely serious, very thorough, and very easy to get along with. And for me, that's the most important thing, because you may have like somebody who you think it's incredible and amazing as an artist, and then you try and collaborate and it's a total flop.